Relationship. The way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. The way in which two or more people or groups regard and behave toward each other. How we interact, relate to, and react to the world. Our relationship to thoughts and ideas determine our relationships to the world, other people, and our own selves, to the quality of our day-to-day experience, and as a result, to the quality of our very lives. It's a weird thing to think about, our relationship to thoughts and ideas. It's like we're thinking about thinking and forming ideas about ideas. A little bit like trying to grab your hand, or see your own eye, or bite your own teeth. But I suggest that there are real-life benefits to engaging in this kind of exercise. The ideas we develop about ideas are extremely useful, powerful, and liberating. And the thoughts we experience about thinking help to create distance between self and mind, thinker and thoughts. And more importantly, this is how we alleviate the fear in our hearts, tap into the great medicine of cosmic love, and help usher in a better world, not in some remote or theoretical future, but here and now. For many centuries, our kind has been locked in a cycle, or rather a spiral. We have been repeating the same basic pattern both at the individual level and at the collective. Though we have evolved in many capacities, our foundational relationships to each other and the world at large have remained largely unchanged. Behind the frantic evolution of technology and culture, the same basic drama has been playing and replaying itself out on every stage imaginable. The human drama, a saga of oppression, exploitation, and rebellion. The struggle of the masses beneath the oppressive boot of the few. Each party has so far played its necessary role in this saga. The whole of human history has been slowly building up to this climactic moment. A self-fulfilling prophecy which has been cast again and again. The much discussed end times. Here's what I've learned, my friends. The end and the beginning are one. The end of this cycle of conflict and strife, signals the beginning of something new. Having finally uprooted the self-destructive beliefs and impulses, the aggressive, tribal, and territorial inclinations of our past, we can finally embody the best of our kind. We can turn away from competition and warfare toward new horizons of collaboration and mutual benefit. We can erase the imaginary divisions of our past and thrive as one family. The way to end the old cycle is not to destroy it, but simply to begin forging the new. And I would like to suggest to you today that we begin this process by examining, challenging, and if needed, adjusting our relationships, starting with the most intimate and direct relationship we have, the one to our thoughts, mind, and beliefs. From this work alone, the myriad outward relationships we have will begin to shift into a functional state. Some of these relationships may dissolve entirely. New ones may suddenly appear to take their place, and those that were and remain will become vital, healthy, and strong. Just remember, my friends, the heart creates love. The mind and heart fulfill different functions and use different methods, but one of the heart's functions is to create love. But when the heart is full of fear, it cannot produce. It is stifled. Like a garden full of weeds doesn't produce fruit, so a heart full of fear does not produce love. If you don't think that you can have a relationship with an idea or a concept, I invite you to think back to September 16th, 2001. That was the day that George W. Bush declared war on terror. Terror is not a concrete thing. There's no physical manifestation of terror that is somewhere out there that we can actually wage war against. Terror is a concept. Terrorism is an idea, it's an attitude, it's a culture, whatever you want to call it. It's embodied by people, but terrorism and terror itself are not concrete things that you can destroy. You can't really wage a war against them. So that's an example of a relationship we have to an abstract notion. We declared war on terror. Doesn't really make sense, does it? So if you declare war against a country, that war has a clear, definite end in sight. But if you declare war on a concept, and a concept exists in the minds of people, how can you ever truly know that you've won the war? And this is a very dysfunctional way of dealing with problems, right? Declare war on it. But of course, it's not the first time we've done this as a species. If you go a little further back in time, by about 30 years, to June 18th, 1971, you will find, I think, the very first instance of declaring war against an abstract notion. And that is, of course, the war on drugs. And that was declared by Richard Nixon in 71. And it's another example of how human beings have relationships with ideas and concepts, and how those relationships have a real effect on the material world. And these are, of course, blatant examples, right? Declaring war on an idea is probably the most hyperbolic example I could come up with. But in your own life, you have relationships to ideas, concepts, and abstract notions as well. And the dangerous thing about these is that for the most part, unless you declare war on them, you don't really understand, or you're not fully aware of the relationship that you have and how it, again, impacts your real world, your real life. You can have a toxic relationship with money. You could have this obsession, this feeling that you never have enough, and that might motivate you to keep accumulating more and more money. And that becomes the central goal or driving force of your entire life. And, that's going to have a major impact on you. But that's a relationship. You have a relationship with money. And some people have a healthy relationship with money and others don't. But either way, your relationship with money is going to have real impacts on your material existence in this world, on how you feel, on how you behave, on your priorities, what you value, what you don't value. It's all shaped and influenced by this relationship, right? You have a relationship to family, the concept or the idea of family. I know some people who will put up with the most abhorrent, insulting, disrespectful, just terrible behavior. They'll take it because the person who's dishing it out is family. For some people, it doesn't matter if they've been treated poorly, abused physically, mentally, or emotionally. None of that matters because family is sacred, and you have to put up with your family no matter what. That belief has real impacts on a person's life, on their material existence. This is all part of the same conversation, right? Our relationship to concepts, our definitions of certain things, our assumptions about the way things are and ought to be, all of these things are at the root of the fear pandemic and all of the dysfunctional relationships that we're involved in as a species. The beliefs arise out of fear, but they're also a response to fear. It's a really tangled web. It's really difficult to know where to start when you're trying to unravel the knot. But I think that awareness of the situation, awareness that there are these things that we believe that cause us to feel fear, and then, of course, sometimes we respond to fear with anger, hatred, and then destruction. All of these things are important facets of the conversation. And I think the more we can start talking about this stuff, and the more we can start to examine ourselves and look for these things in ourselves, well, I think that's going to have, again, a real impact on the material world. I think it has to. There's no option. It's going to change everything. But first, we have to work on changing ourselves. And before we can change ourselves, we have to know ourselves. And that's what it's all about. Stop living on autopilot. Stop assuming that what you believe is the truth. Start questioning and challenging these things in yourself. And then you'll be better equipped to have those hard conversations we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, right? You have to have those hard conversations with yourself first before you can go and have a sit down with the KKK or, your Trump loving uncle or whoever, right? Because I think ultimately those conversations and the hard work has to be done on an individual basis before it can actually be used externally with other people.